Hi, guys, and welcome to the season 4 finale of the Mixtape podcast. I don't know why I'm talking like this, but it is. It's a season 4 finale. So, thank you, everyone that has listened to our previous seasons. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. If you haven't, if you like what we have to say, please subscribe. And we're at the end of season 4. And to end season 4, we are doing Wes Craven's New Nightmare 1994, written and directed by one of the best directors in the industry, RIP Wes Craven, taken way too soon. I don't know if anybody really compares to him. He was just an absolute genius. So that's what we're doing today. I'm your host. My name is Dean, and I'm joined as always by Marcelo. So the premise of Wes Craven's New Nightmare is this. A demonic force has chosen Freddy Krueger as its portal to the real world. Can Heather Langenkamp play the part of Nancy one last time? Now, if you don't know what New Nightmare is, it is a part of A Nightmare on Elm Street, but New Nightmare it follows the characters, the actors that played the characters. So the actress that played Nancy in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Heather Langenkamp, we follow her and she plays herself. So a lot of people in this movie play themselves. Freddy, played by Robert Englund, he plays himself. So it's a real, I don't know, I felt like when it came out, it was a real game changer in the horror game because I'm not sure anything like this had ever been done. But obviously having Wes's mind, this movie actually came out really, really cool. So Marcelo, what do you think about New Nightmare? Or what did you think when you first saw it? Did you know it was going to be like this, or did you think it was going to be like a standard Nightmare on Elm Street movie?
No, I thought it was going to be like a standard Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And the thing that I love about it so much is that you just mentioned that when this movie came out, it had never been seen before. And I really think that this movie has echoes of Scream. It's a movie within a movie. And I really, really
Yeah.
enjoy that so much because there's so many elements here that reminded me of elements that Kevin Williamson would use later down the road in the subsequent Scream franchise, and I was like, "Oh wow, this!" I mean, just this concept of a movie within a movie was fascinating to me.
Yeah, it gave me opening of Scream 4 vibes, which I think is one of the best openings to the Scream movie, where it was like you think you're in the movie, but then you're not. They're watching a movie, and he does it like 3 times. And I'm like, what the fuck? But this is very, very esque of that, which I thought was really cool. So the opening scene of this movie, we're on a movie set, and we're filming a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, not the original movie, but a movie. And it's kind of like a close up on Freddy's claw, glove, whatever you want to call it. And there's, the prop people that are working on Freddy's kind of raise a hand. They're making it work. They're kind of making it like, because I think in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, it was just Robert Englund just had like a glove on and it just had the razors coming out. But they're making it updated. They're making it kind of mechanical. And then it just comes to life and starts killing everyone, basically. It kills 2 of the prop guys. Heather Langenkamp is on set. So she's working on the movie and she sees this, she screams, and then Heather wakes up and it was only a dream. But in the dream, her husband was there because her husband is a prop guy. And he cuts his hand. She sees the razor blade cut his hand in the dream. And when she wakes up, she sees that his hand is cut in the exact same place as it was in the dream. So I thought that was a really good setup. Like, oh, okay. Because this is New Nightmare, but we are still watching a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So it does have a dream element to it where dreams can kind of cross over into reality. So what did you think about the opening setup of New Nightmare?
I love the opening setup of A New Nightmare because you're on set and, like Dean said, they're filming a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and the character who plays Nancy doesn't seem to be happy with her, with her station in life. She doesn't really seem to be really excited with the things that with the with the whole Nightmare on Elm Street thing. So I really like that Wes differentiated the character of Nancy from her actress, and I think that really plays well into some of the paranoia we're going to see this character, who is essentially the real actress, go through in the course of this movie. Um, I really like the scene when the hand comes to life and basically kills everybody, and the actress who plays Nancy, Heather Langenkamp, just wakes up, and like Dean said, her husband has a cut on his hand, the same cut that he had in the dream. So I thought that was just great.
Heather's getting ready to go out when she sees claw marks slash across her wall. She runs downstairs to see her son, her fucking son, his fucking kid. He's like 5, 6, 7, I don't know, fucking 6, I don't know. He's in a lot of like 80s, 90s horror movies, but he's just, I don't know, for me, he's just fucking annoying. So anyway, she runs downstairs. She sees her son watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original movie that she was in. She freaks out, turns it off, and he begins screaming like a banshee, and she just can't work out why. The phone rings. As soon as the phone rings, he stops screaming. Heather answers, and she hears 1, 2, and she hangs up the phone. Now, everybody knows that fucking song. If you know Nightmare on Elm Street, you know that song. The phone rings again. Why she answers it, fucking beyond me. But in those times, they didn't have caller ID. So she answers it, and then she hears, Freddy's coming for you. And then she hangs up and freaks the fuck out. So again, Wes has put creepy shit into it. And he's kind of, he writes it in a way that it builds up to the finale. So little things will happen to freak her out, and then it builds up to the final act of the movie. And what did you think about that?
Yeah, I kept wondering if everything that happened, like the phone call, the slashes on the wall, and various other incidents that happened to Nancy, or AKA the actress who plays Nancy, Heather Langenkamp, I kept thinking, is this in her head or is this real? So this whole movie had this dream quality to it. And I kept wondering, is she awake or is she asleep? And that
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
that was like the most fascinating thing to me.
Yeah.
As far as this kid is concerned, he kept like every time that I saw him, he reminded me of the kid in The Shining, Danny.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
this kid really pissed me off because
Yeah.
I generally don't like kids in movies.
Heather is she's heading to an interview, and she gets in a limo, and I mean, this is why I would fucking hate to be famous. Honestly, you just have such dickheads. She's in the limo, and the limo driver keeps looking at her through the rear view mirror, and he's like, "Hey, you're the girl in that movie with the guy with the claws." Now limo drivers would be under strict, like, do not fucking talk to anybody that gets in the limo, because they would be fired straight away. But this guy, it doesn't care. And she's like, yeah, and she's really embarrassed. She's like, yeah, that's me, because she must get that all the fucking time. And she's like, oh, this is great. Like, this is fucking great. Like, she doesn't want to talk about it. He keeps going on and on and on about, oh, I like the claw and I like this and I like that. And she's just sitting there really uncomfortable, because I think, and don't quote me on this because I don't know for a fact, but actors, it's a job. People tend to take their characters as maybe not real, but a bit too far. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the problem is with a lot of people who like actors for a specific role, they see that person as that character. They don't view
Yeah,
them as a person.
yeah,
And therein lies the problem. Like Dean said, being an actor is just a job.
yeah,
Playing a character is what they do, but that isn't all that they are. So I completely, I really, really felt bad for, Nancy. I'm just going to keep calling her Nancy because you guys know I'm shit with names. I
yeah.
felt
Nancy's
really,
fine.
yeah, I felt, I felt really bad for her
Mm,
because I can just imagine what kind of life she had on a daily basis being constantly complimented on the Nightmare on Elm Street success. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But going back to another thing that I liked about this movie, I really thought that her being bombarded by several people in this movie about her fame and the fact that she is the actress who played the heroine who killed Freddy Krueger really added to her paranoia as the film went on.
Yeah, 100%. Her paranoia goes like completely through the roof. So she's at the interview. She's being interviewed for TV by an absolute fucking idiot. Like, I mean, look, a lot of interviewers ask stupid questions either to trigger the actor, to get a rise out of them, to get ratings. I don't know. I don't know. And he's asking the most stupid fucking questions, like I said, as they all fucking do. And the actors just have to sit there and smile and be like, yeah, everything's fine. I don't care that you're asking fucking dumb ass questions. I'll answer them because I'm smiling and I'm on TV and I want people to fucking like me because that's part of the job. So the host says, hey, we have a big surprise for you. We have Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund. And she kind of freaks out a little bit. And you're kind of wondering, why is she freaking out? Like, she knows him. She knows he's not actually Freddy. Robert Englund comes out, full costume, full Freddy makeup, full everything. He's got the persona. He is Freddy. And again, Heather is a bit taken aback. She's a bit afraid. And you can tell that Robert as Freddy makes her nervous, which is interesting because she filmed, I think, 2 or 3 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I don't think she was in all of them. But it's interesting that, and I know this is just a movie, but in the movie, she gets freaked out by Freddy because, I don't know, maybe something traumatized her. Like, later on, she's not freaked out by Robert. She's freaked out by when he turns into Freddy. She thinks that there's something wrong. Like, maybe I don't know. But anyway, that was that scene. What do you think?
It was really great, but the thing that I really liked about the scene was Nancy getting freaked out and getting all wigged when Robert Englund, surprised her on the set of the interview and started acting like Freddy. I think that, again, I'm going to keep harping on. I think that Wes really gave Nancy some really deep emotional problems because of her experience while she was playing Nancy in the in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And I think that only makes this faux version of herself in this movie work so much better when shit hits the fan here very shortly.
Yeah, because there's a short scene after the interview where Heather and Robert, as Robert, he's not Freddy anymore, are chatting and they have a really solid, close relationship. So you can see that she's not bothered by Robert, she's bothered by Freddy. So when she leaves, she gets a call from New Line Cinema for a meeting. So she goes and she sits down with one of the executives and they propose a new Freddy movie. And I mean, it's written and directed by Wes Craven, who is in this movie, who plays himself. But her face is just like, because she probably wants to get the fuck away from that. Like, anybody that knows her from that movie. She's not been able to do any other roles that really define her. So when they go, oh, we want to do another Freddy movie, she's just fucking like, oh my fucking God. Like, as an actor, as I am not, you want to spread your wings. You want to do different roles because that's what acting is. You don't want to continuously do the same role over and over and over and again. So she's just like, oh, she doesn't want to do it. She declines. She's like, no, I don't want to do it. Like, and the executive tells her that her husband, who is a prop guy, is actually working on a new Freddy glove and they told him not to tell her. And she's fucking pissed. Imagine your significant other is working on something that you don't know about, that you've been told, no, that's fucked. I would be pissed at him. I would call him on the phone straight away and be like, listen, fucker, come home. I got something to say. But anyway, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that scene was very triggering to me because of the name of the executive that she was speaking to. But I really think that, again, Nancy doesn't want to be typecast, and I think that's what Dean was driving to when she was talking about actors
Yeah.
constantly being known for one thing or another. And
Yeah.
the fact that almost everybody in this movie, Wes, Robert England, want to do another one because the fans want it, that's not that's not good enough. I mean, like I said, these actors are people, and they need to do other things, and they can't just let one role um um define their careers. And the thing that I loved about this movie is the inner struggle that Wes gave the actress as Nancy to
Mm.
propel the story forward. And I just love that. I love how uncomfortable she was throughout the whole thing, basically, until
Yeah.
almost until the very end.
Yeah. So Heather gets home and she hears her son screaming. So she runs up to his bedroom and grabs him. And literally, he looks at her and he goes, "Never sleep again." And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, and she knows it. She knows that's from her movies. And so she's just like, oh, okay. And he pulls out a toy dinosaur that has like the Freddy slash marks through it. And he says, Rex saved me. And you're kind of like, so is Freddy haunting him in his dreams? You kind of don't know for sure. She calls her husband, who's on set, who's working on the Freddy glove, and she asks him to come home. And so he says he'll be home in 3 hours because he's fucking working on a set that's obviously 3 hours away. We see the Freddy glove he's working on, and when he gets in his truck, the glove is gone. We kind of get the gist that the glove is with him in his car. How it got in his car, I don't know. It's the Freddy glove. Maybe it's possessed. Maybe it's not. I don't know. He's driving home and he's falling asleep. Freddy's glove comes up from beneath his chair and basically kills him. Just slashes down his entire torso. And obviously the car, he wheels off the road, he crashes, and Heather gets a knock on the door. It's the police, and they tell her that he was killed having fallen asleep while driving, and she demands to see his body because she wants to see what's happened, because she had a dream that Freddy's glove killed him, and she woke up when the police knocked on the door. So she wants to see if that was real or if that wasn't real, because she's starting to go down the rabbit hole at this point.
Yeah, when Nancy's husband was driving down the road, I kept thinking, why the fuck aren't you pulling over? Like, seriously, dude. It's like a 3-hour drive, and why aren't you pulling over? Why is it taking you so long to get home? I kept thinking, I just kept thinking about um, all random things that I shouldn't have been thinking about in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But I did like the scene when the Freddy possessed hand comes, comes through the seat of his car and guts him, growing to sternum. I thought that was pretty cool. But the thing that I really liked about the scene is that after that happened, or almost immediately after that happens, Wes cuts over to Nancy having a nightmare. So again, I thought, did this really happen, or was she
Yeah.
just dreaming? And then when the and then when the cops, you know, come to her house and tell her her husband's dead, I was like, oh, at this point, I just said to myself, Freddy's fucking with her, and
Yeah.
I like that quite a bit.
The next scene really fucks me off because they do this in horror movies. I'm sorry, Wes. I'm really
Can I
sorry.
just can I just say something? The
Yeah.
second I saw the scene, the only thing that was running through my head going, this would never happen. This would never happen. This would, and I'm like, why is this happening to me? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. One of my best friends is obsessed with. Yeah, I didn't like the
Is
scene either.
obsessed
But
with getting shit right.
yeah,
So I had a fucking heart attack when this scene. Look, I
yeah.
understand horror writers need to make it horror, but for fuck's sake, it doesn't even make sense. And I'm going to explain to people why it doesn't make
No,
sense.
no, but also, if Wes wanted to do this, he could have led up to it
Yeah.
and and led up to it and have her break down there for God's sakes, but not just fucking be there.
Yeah. I mean, okay. The first strike for me is she gets out of the elevator. on like the basement levels of the hospital. First of all, you wouldn't be by yourself, you would be escorted by someone because here we go, here's some horror rules for you. To go down to where the morgue is, you actually have to have like a depending what hospital you're at, you have to have a key. Like you can't just be like a random person going, oh, I'm going to go to the morgue, the basement. You can't get down there. You have to, like, the orderly, the nurses, the doctors, they have to have a key to go down there. So the fact that she was down there unescorted, that's not a fucking thing. She arrives in the hallway and there's just bodies on gurneys in the hallway covered by sheets. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? Like, no, fuck off. No, I know that he wants to bump the horror up, but no, I'm not fucking having it. That's not a fucking thing. I know we're watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, but again, you have to have rules when you write horror. You have to have them, otherwise it looks ridiculous. So she walks into a room and you could have fucking bowled me over. I couldn't fucking believe it. She walks into a room. There's about 10 bodies just lying randomly on tables with white sheets over them. And one guy is doing an open autopsy in the corner of the room with like 5 or 6 other people running around. And I'm like, what? and she just Heather just walks in. What? And I'm like, what the fuck? This is why when you go to see a body, you have to book in to make sure this doesn't happen. You have to book in. You have to be escorted by someone, a doctor, a nurse, the mortician, whatever it is. And you're not by yourself. And I'm like, this is just so fucking stupid. And then she's like, and she doesn't even care. She just walks in like, oh, whatever. I would freak the fuck out and I would be skedaddling out of the fucking, I'm not doing this, fucking bodies everywhere. No, fuck that. And then she asks someone, whatever the fuck her husband's name is. And they're like, oh yeah, he's over here. He's not even none of these bodies are in the fridge. Then they're just out. They're just fucking out. Right?
Do you know how much? No. But I'm just gonna say one thing, and then you can continue. Yeah. Do you know how much these bodies would smell if they're out in the open like that? Like what the?
Yeah, that's why we refrigerate them.
Yeah, right.
And if an autopsy is going on, first of all, you don't have bodies out everywhere, and second of all, why would you have them out? Why?
Right.
For what reason? Right. They didn't just come in, like they're just fucking sitting there. Anyway, she sees the guy lifts the thing, the sheet to show that it's her husband, and she says, I want to see the rest of him, and he's like, no. And she goes, no, pull it down. So he pulls it down, and she sees the claw marks that was from her dream on her husband's chest, and she was like, oh, fuck. And I think that's when she knows, that's when she realizes, fuck, Freddy's back. But he's come from the film. Somehow he's come from the film franchise, because obviously she's an actor. She knows he's not real, but something's happening where he's coming into the real world from the film world. So what did you think of that? Sorry, Wes, fucked up, horrific scene.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would have written that scene differently. Like, I would have had Nancy properly go to the hospital and be sort of like in a panic state to see her husband, and somehow force her way down there to see her husband, because most of the times when they ask you to identify the body, some coroners want to spare you the feelings and you don't get to see the body. All you get to see is a fucking picture.
Yeah.
But Dean is so right. Everything about how Nancy made her way down there, to the gurneys being everywhere out in the hall, to there being an open autopsy in the corner of the room, that is just ridiculous. That is so not realistic that it just pissed me off so much. Like I couldn't stand it.
I write horror, but there's rules.
Yeah. But I think also I think that in this point in the film, Nancy was already cooking that there's something happening here, and I think that this is a turning point when she really, really starts to believe that that the spirit of Freddy is somehow coming into the real world.
Yeah, but did you notice when she went down, She wasn't even like upset. I would be distraught. I wouldn't go by myself. I would be distraught. And then when she saw her husband's body, I I don't know. I mean, seeing the person that you love like that, I wouldn't be able to, like, yeah, anyway. I didn't think that she conveyed, because through the rest of the movie it was like the husband was forgotten. She wasn't upset, she wasn't crying, she was, do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Wes could have done a lot more developing their relationship to make his death hit harder.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately he didn't do that. He focused on the horror elements
Yeah,
of
which is
this
fine.
script, and he kept, which is fine, and he kept also leaving a hat on the ground with all the earthquakes, which I
Yeah.
thought was interesting, and I like the way that he used that. But
Yeah, it's interesting because I've never been in an earthquake, because here's a little bit of knowledge. In Australia, we don't get earthquakes. We don't get hurricanes. We don't get cyclones. We hardly get snow. We don't get tornadoes. Yeah, we're pretty lucky. We don't get any of that. So that scene was that scene. But I think Wes redeemed himself with the next scene, because the next scene was truly fucked. Truly fucked. So we're at her husband's funeral, and his casket is being lowered into the ground, and there's like a priest saying the prayer, and there's a huge gust of wind that comes, like massive gust of wind, and it kind of it knocks the coffin as it's being lowered into the ground off the mechanical like thing that it's on, and it kind of it knocks it onto an angle, and Heather sees she turns around and she can't find, she doesn't know where her son is, Dylan. She goes, where the fuck is Dylan? And then she turns and she looks at the casket, and the casket has opened. Her husband's dead body is in there, and the boy, her son, is being pulled into the ground underneath the coffin by an unknown force. And that creeped me the fuck out. Wes, fuck, what is in your brain? So she jumps down over her husband's dead body into the hole that her son Dylan is being pulled into. And it looks like the set design is really cool. It looks like the inside, like what a casket, what they like the silk that they put inside the casket. It looks like a giant casket, and he's being pulled by Freddy's glove. So she pulls him out. She steps out of the hole, and then her husband's dead body like falls onto her, and I was like, oh, that's fucked. And then he opens his eyes and tells her, stay with me, which is even more fucked. But this was all in her head. This didn't happen. So it was like, Marcelo, what you were saying before about we don't know what's happening and what's really happening, but it works in this movie because this movie is all about the dream world. So there are no rules. I know I keep talking about rules. There are no rules when it comes to the dream world, because this movie is about a sinister figure, Freddy, who is in the dream world. So we're going to have lapses of reality and dreams where we don't know what's happening, which is what Wes does really, really well. So what do you think about that creepy fucking scene?
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene, and the fact that the production designer made it look like the kid actor was being dragged into the hole under his father's coffin was the creepiest shit ever. And when Nancy pulled him back out, and Nancy's husband came on top of her, and he said, "Stay with me," I'm like, and again, a second after that, we are jolted into reality, or so we think, and the coffin is fine, and Nancy is asking, "Where's Dylan? Where's Dylan?" And Wes pans over, and Dylan is sitting right there. So not only did Wes make a creepy scene, but again, like Dean said, he kept the audience wondering what's real and what's not, which is part of the course
Yeah.
for a Nightmare on Elm Street film.
Heather's at home. She's back at home. And she goes downstairs and she sees her son watching A Nightmare on Elm Street again. And she's like, what the fuck? But he's sleepwalking. And he looks at her and he says to her, he's trying to get into our world. And you know who he is. She knows who he is. That was a short scene, but that pushed the story forward because now we know what's happening. Now we know why she's paranoid. Now we know why she's going crazy, because he's trying to find a way into reality from from his world.
Yeah, look. I thought that scene was good, but I also think that's Wes doubled down on that concept of what the film was supposed to be later on, and I don't think it worked, so to speak. I would have had Wes the I would have had Wes sort of bring home the mission state of the movie in that scene rather than this one, because it kind of felt like it was there just to be there, and Wes sort of like didn't feel secure in his concept, at least for this movie. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm talking about? Or
Yeah, like it didn't need to be there. It didn't need to be said
right?
because we already
Right.
kind of knew what was going on. If that is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, yes, yes. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So now we're at a playground and she's talking. Nancy, fucking. Now I'm being a you, fucking Nancy. Heather is talking to her friend, which played her father in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. He's playing himself. And her son is she's not watching. She's not fucking watching. She's talking to this guy. I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know what's wrong with my son, yet she's not fucking watching him. He climbs to the top of a like a playground spaceship. And I have to say, when I saw that, I got mad nostalgia vibes because we had them here in playgrounds and they were the funnest thing. You would climb up so high and there would be like a metal steering wheel and you just felt like fucking God. It was the funnest thing. They don't have them anymore because, you know, people are fucking safety, but it was safe. You couldn't fall. And the thing that the boy, he opens a flap in the top and stands on the top. That's not a thing. They made that just for the movie. You couldn't get out of the top. So I was like, well, that's not a thing. But he's standing on the top and he reaches up to like heaven, and Heather sees this and runs to him as he falls and catches him. And he says, "God wouldn't take me." And I thought, if he fell from that height, which is high, I mean, she wouldn't. No. Anyway, that was quite sad because he said God wouldn't take me, and I was like, oh. But anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I had a major nostalgia moment because, like you, when I was a kid, I played on things like that. But nowadays, like Dean just said, safety. Um, I really like this
Safety
scene.
first.
Yeah, this
Bubble wrap first.
yeah. So, just a quick aside. When we were kids, guys, our parents didn't care about bumps and bruises. They put us in the most unsecure possible death traps.
They made us strong.
Yes,
they didn't make us wimps. They didn't make us. They were like, you scraped your knee, walk it off.
Yeah, walk
That's
it
what
off.
happened. Fucking walk the scrape off. You're good. Get going.
Walk it off. The thing that I liked about the scene is when the boy goes to the top of the spaceship and he falls off. I really like what he says because that to me is when laying a hat on the ground, and I like the way that he picks it up later on. That scene, in where he picks up the line that the boy just said, "God wouldn't take me," is cool, but I have a structural issue with that scene that I kind of already mentioned, so I'll just wait until we get there to go into it just a little bit more.
So the next scene, Heather is checking the mail. And she finds she opens like an envelope and she finds a book page with a single letter like burnt into the book page. And she places it in a drawer with many other letters. So obviously it's a stalker letter. She keeps them. That comes back later, but I don't think we needed it. I really don't. Even when we see what the word is, it was like, oh, like we didn't. I feel like we didn't need that at all because that was kind of, it didn't go anywhere.
No, we didn't need that at all. It didn't go anywhere.
Heather calls Robert because she's kind of freaking out. Robert Englund, who is Freddy, and asks if he's been having Freddy dreams. And she said, and he's kind of taken aback because he is Freddy. And she goes, no, but he's not you. He's different. And Robert says, is he darker, more sinister, more evil? And she says, yeah, how did you know? And he's standing there and he's painting. And then we see what he's painting. And he's painting Freddy, but a much, much darker version. So clearly he is having the dreams. But obviously, who's he going to tell? He's having dreams about himself, a character that's not even real that he plays. So I liked it because he was also being harassed, but it didn't come back at all. It didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like it never came back. I don't think he was ever in the movie again. Maybe one other time, but it didn't really go anywhere that he was having the same dreams as her.
Yeah, I really felt that Wes missed an opportunity to team up Nancy with Robert England and have them deal with this issue together and then bring it to Wes as himself in the movie and them have to understand that they had to make this final movie that Wes was writing.
Mm.
Like that would have been really cool, but there are specific things about this film that just don't that they fit, but they just don't fit quite right, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Heather is asleep, and we see Freddy's glove come up from beneath the mattress, and just as it's about to strike, she wakes up. And then she hears her son chanting the Freddy song downstairs. And he has a Freddy glove on, and he tries to attack her. And then she wakes up, right? That was very Scream 4 opening-esque, and I loved it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Not that I haven't seen this before. I have many, many times. So she goes downstairs to see her son because that was a dream. And her son is, what is it? What did I write? Her son, to see her son chant. And he's chanting the Freddy song, like in her dream. And sees he's laid out all the book pages with the burnt in letters that she's been getting in the mail, which was just the scene before. And it spells out answer the phone, which is like, what? Why? This is so stupid. And then the phone rings and she answers it and it's Freddy. And this was great because this was a homage to the original Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a tongue that kind of comes out of the phone, which every fan of this movie knows that's a callback. Heather drops the phone and then her son starts having a seizure. So, thoughts?
Yeah, listen, to be honest, the only thing that I could think about when Nancy came downstairs and saw her son with the makeshift Freddy hands, all I kept thinking about was Scream 4 and the multiple openings to that film. But I thought that was a good scene, but I think that Wes could have possibly shortened it a little bit more, and I would have taken out the answer the phone shit and just have the phone ring, and then basically do everything else. Do the nice tip of the cap to the original film that I really really liked, and that's pretty much it. I like the scene, but there are things that I would have changed about it.
Yeah. So Nancy takes her son Dylan to the hospital because he's having a seizure. And they want to keep him overnight for observation. But what's really cool is Lynn Shay is the nurse. Now, fans of this franchise will recognize her. She was actually the teacher in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And she actually, for the current horror fans, plays Elise in all the Insidious movies. So she's a horror icon-ish, I guess. But it was very, very cool to see her again. There's not much to do with that scene. If you want to talk about it, you can. But that's that scene. She just drops him off at the hospital, basically.
No, that was a good scene.
So now Heather visits Wes Craven, asking about the new script because she knows he's writing a new Freddy script. And Wes tells her, in the script, Freddy is an entity that is trying to get into our world, but you are the gatekeeper. You are the one that are keeping him from getting through. And I think that we need to make another movie and you need to play Nancy one last time. But Wes, something about the way that his tone that he uses, he knows that it's not just a script. He knows there's something that's trying to attack Heather. He knows something's trying to come in from another portal posing as Freddy, because it's not actually Freddy. It's a demonic force that's gotten into her head. Oh, Freddy? Okay, cool. And it's taking the shape of Freddy, but it's not actually Freddy. And Wes, we don't know how, but Wes kind of knows this. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I really think that this was Wes as a writer kind of wanting to hammer home the quote unquote thesis of the movie or what this movie is about. And I don't think it's really, I don't think it was something that was necessary because in the scenes that we've already talked about, I really got a good idea of what's happening to Nancy, aka the real actress who played Nancy in this film. I kind of already knew that Freddie was finding his way into the real world, and I really think that it was Wes trying to really hammer home what he was trying to do in this movie to people who weren't fans of the franchise. But there are certain things that I wish would have happened in that scene, but unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be.
So Heather is watching the news when they say two special effects people working on the new Freddy movie were found dead, brutally slashed. Now, if we go back to the dream sequence in the beginning, the first scene of the movie, those were the two same people that died. And so she's like, fuck. And the closet door opens, and then Freddy comes out trying to attack Heather, and then he vanishes, which is the first time that Freddy's actually fully manifested into reality. So what did you think?
Yeah, that was really, really cool because it was really cool to see Robert England Freddy actually be manifested in the real world. And I liked, when he jumped on the bed and he called her Nancy. I thought that was really, really cool. But the other thing that I kept wondering is like, can't the neighbors hear any of this? He made quite a ruckus, I guess, or
Yeah,
whatnot. Again,
no,
again,
depends.
again. When I watch Nightmare on Elm Street films, I try not to think about logic, but I don't know why logic bothered me in that moment.
Yeah. So Heather goes to see her son, who's in the hospital, and she falls asleep next to his bed and then sees her son wake up and turn basically into Freddy and then spit some gross shit on her face. She wakes up in a frenzy because it was a dream. She demands to see her son because when she wakes up, her son's not there, and the nurse tells her, oh, well, he's just gone downstairs for tests, he's fine. And she goes, no, I want to see him. And they try and stop her mother from seeing her son, which I thought was fucking bizarre. They literally physically try to stop her. She races past them, races downstairs, and she finds him, and there's a nurse with him. She's like, no, he's fine. So she's saying she finds him, and then she says she has to go. But she's going to come back, and she's left him with the babysitter who is there, who's going to stay with him, who's going to keep an eye on him. And then, and this is so stupid, Heather gets grabbed by two security guards, and then gets the third degree from a nurse. What do you think you're doing? What? And I'm like, what the fuck? You can't do that. That's totally illegal. You cannot keep a mother away from. No, it's not. So then, this is the best part. A nurse injects her son with a sedative. He's not freaking out, or he's fucking sedative, without the mother's permission. And I'm like, what? And then he starts seeing Freddy behind the babysitter because the nurses have fucking fucked off. He kills the babysitter, raises her up. The nurses bust in, and when they bust in, they see the babysitter like dangling in the air, which was a pretty cool scene. Nobody else can see Freddy but the boy. But I found it hilarious that the whole thing was absurd. The whole fucking thing would never happen. Don't worry about the morgue shit. This would never happen.
Yeah, I really, really would have liked it if this would have happened, but if it would have happened in a dream state for the kid. And,
yeah, that would have made sense.
If Freddy or the entity that or the entity that was trying to get out through Freddy connected Nancy and the kid and have this all happen in the dream world, but then have it happen in reality. And I just want to point out that giving, like Dean said, giving a sedative to a child without their parents' permission never happens. The two cops giving Nancy the ninth degree, that would never happen. So there's some inaccuracies that happen in the scene, but I would have done it a little bit differently. Just to
Yeah.
say.
Like, listen, I know it's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but you still got to be realistic with what happens. So now she's lost track of her son again because he fucking just wanders off. This fucking kid does not want to, even after the sedative, does not want to fucking stay put. So she chases her son out of the hospital. She doesn't know where he's gone. She sees him wandering onto the highway. She chases him. Freddy appears and lifts the boy in the air with like this giant, massive glove. Heather runs out onto into the highway. She gets hit by a car brutally, but is totally fine. Gets up, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then loses track of her son. Can't find him. That's that scene. This movie gets more absurd as I'm not saying it's a bad movie for the fans out there. It's not. It's great, but the movie gets more and more absurd as it goes on.
Yeah, all I kept thinking about were logic holes, and I kept thinking about how I could have made this movie work.
Heather returns home because she doesn't know where her son would have gone, so she goes home because she thinks he's going home, and he is in the dream world. So he's asleep. He's in the dream world. So she goes to find him. She knows the only way she can find him is to go into the dream world, and she goes into the dream world. And this is really, really this is a really good third act, or the final battle scene, because Heather. It's a really cool set design because it looks like hell. There's fire, there's brimstone, there's ancient ruins. Like, it just looks really, really cool. The way that they're designed, there's water, there's goop, it's just really cool. So Heather eventually finds her son, and she fights it out with Freddy. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole fight, but she fights it out with him, and Freddy gets tossed into like an incinerator. He gets burned again. This guy can't catch a fucking break. Burned alive again.
I'm sorry, if I just could.
Yeah.
Do you think that Freddy at this point in the franchise has a Michael Myers complex?
No, not as bad, because Freddy's in the dream world, so it makes sense. Like, weirdly enough, it makes sense. Because not Jason. Michael is a human being. And the fact that they keep killing him and he just can't die is just fucking stupid. But Freddy's not real. So it makes sense. And she killed him in the dream world, not in the real world. So that's his world, that's his domain. So is he really dead? Because he's in the dream world, he can't really die. So we're like, we don't fucking know. So Heather and her son race out of the really cool set, making it back to reality. They wake up, and there's like an earthquake that's happening, and she finds the new Freddy script. I don't know why it's there. Who put it there? Who fucking knows? And starts reading it, and it's the movie that we are watching from the first scene where we start on the movie set. So Wes has already written the movie, and that's the end, but I thought it was really cool. It was a really, really, really cool ending to this really cool movie, I thought.
Yeah, look. This movie has issues with it, which we already talked about somewhat. But it's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, so as screenplay writers, there's only so much that we can complain about. And I have a soft spot for Wes. If you guys have listened to any episodes that we've done on the show, you know why. So I tend to be a little bit more forgiving with him. But the end sequence was cool. Watching Nancy go into Freddy's world and kill him, then having her wake up with her son and reading and finally seeing the script that Wes wrote, and having the script be the exact movie that we just saw was pretty cool. So in that way, I like the way that Wes did the perfect circle of the movie within the movie.
Yeah, it was pretty great. So if there's nothing else, I'll go to my trivia.
Off you pop.
This is actually the Freddy that Wes originally wanted for the first film, more menacing and less comical. So he actually got to do what he wanted to do in the beginning, which, was cool.
Okay.
This is quite funny. So Wes wanted to ask Johnny Depp to make an appearance in the film as himself, but couldn't work up the courage to do it Later on, after the movie was done, he bumped into Johnny and asked if he would have done it if he had asked. And Johnny said, yeah, you should have asked me to do it. And I was like, oh, Wes, why didn't you ask?
Come on, really? That would have been so cool to see his character back again, and to see him play like a version of himself within the within the world of Nightmare on Elm Street would have been so cool.
I know. So in real life, Heather's husband is actually a special effects guy, and they asked him to play her husband in the movie, but he declined.
Okay.
This one was quite interesting. I don't think they could get away with that now, but in the 90s, you could get away with anything. Okay. Wes wanted a real crying reaction from the actor that played Dylan, Heather's son in the movie. So he made his mother leave the set, and his father would whisper into his ear before they started shooting, "Your mother's dead." And if he acted well, he would get a Happy Meal.
Oh my God, that is great.
What the fuck? Is that called traumatizing, or is that called traumatizing? That's wounding right there.
That's wounding. That's wounding. But that is giving him motivation. That is absolutely great. But you're right. That would never fly today. Absolutely not.
No way. I don't know why his mother would have said yes to that. Fuck. That's pretty fucking harsh. But anyway, that's the end of my trivia. And that's the end. That's the end, folks. That is the end of season 4, because this is a season 4 finale. If you want to email us, you can email us at themixtapepod@aol.com. If you like what we have to say, please subscribe, like, and if you're watching or listening on YouTube, you can drop us a comment. We are across all podcast platforms. Up next week, nothing, because this is the season 4 finale, but we are coming back for a season 5. So we hope that you will wait for us, because we have banging movies coming up for season 5. They're fucking banging. Marcelo, are they banging or are they banging?
Oh yes, they're all sorts of banging. I am really, really excited to talk. Guys, you have no idea.
Yeah.
I think that this is the most abstract list we've put together. So it'll be really fun to dig into some of these movies.
Yes, and we really hope you like it. And I'm going to end the podcast how I always end. If someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must mean that they really love you. The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.